All right, everyone, get ready, because today we are going deep on something pretty unique, The Lyatt Show.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of a wild ride. It's everywhere. Newsletters, blogs, you name it, podcasts, of course, social media too. And it's all tied together, with
Yeah.
like personal stories about life in Israel and all these topics you wouldn't think would go together, like music and food and entrepreneurship.
And it's interesting, right, how Lyatt describes what she does. She doesn't just call herself a storyteller, she actually uses the word architect.
I noticed that too.
It's like she's building this whole new experience for storytelling, like literally.
Yeah, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. I was looking at her About section,
Oh, yeah.
and it's amazing. She says, I weave together history, music, science, entrepreneurship, business, art, food, and personal stories faster than most people can grab a snack, and I make them delicious.
Wow.
That is a serious statement.
Yeah, it is. And you know what else really stood out to me?
Look, hon.
The way she talks about her dad, who is an architect.
Wow.
And she says he was a great storyteller, too. So I'm like, is that where she gets it from? You know, like this whole way of putting things together?
Right, that's fascinating. Like, she got it from her dad, this architectural approach to stories.
Mhm.
But then she goes and asks, help me find the words to describe what I do. It's like even she's not sure what to call it.
Exactly. I think that's what makes Lyatt's work so important, right?
It's going.
She's showing us this gap in how we, understand stuff online.
Hmm.
We're all drowning in content, but, do we even know how to think about it? Especially now with all this AI stuff coming out.
That's a great point, right? Like, how do we even know what's real anymore? And Leah's got this whole thing, the Lyatt portal method for reading.
Right? Have you checked that out?
I've heard about it.
It's basically this system for, putting online sources into categories and actually figuring out if we can trust them.
That's interesting. So it's like a method for becoming a smarter reader online.
Yeah, exactly. It's super practical, too, and really breaks it down into these steps anyone can follow.
So walk me through it. Like, what are the steps? What does she actually recommend?
Okay, so the first thing she says is to figure out where the information is coming from. Like, is it a big news site, a journal, just someone's random post? That tells you a lot right there.
Right, because some sources are way more reliable than others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you got to look at who wrote it. Like, what's their background? What's their deal? Are they an expert? Do they have an agenda? You know what I mean?
Okay, so you're saying it's not just about the website, but the person behind it, too.
Right. Then it gets even deeper. She says you got to look for proof. Like, does the author back up what they're saying with facts, links, data? Or is it all just, opinion?
That's a good point, because anyone can just say anything these days.
Exactly. Especially with AI, right? It can sound super convincing, even if it's making stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Lyatt says, don't forget the big picture. Like, how does this piece of information fit into everything else that's being said about this topic? Are there other viewpoints we should be considering?
So it's like, don't get tunnel vision on one article or post, right?
Exactly. You got to zoom out and see the whole landscape.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So basically, Leatt's giving us a roadmap to becoming more savvy readers, regardless of whether we're reading something written by a human or generated by AI.
Exactly. It's like she's handing us a survival guide for the digital age.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And what's cool is that she's not just talking about this stuff, she's actually doing it. Her About page hints at all these crazy topics she covers. It's like everything but the kitchen sink.
Right. I was browsing through her episode titles earlier, and it's wild.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, get this. One episode is called, We Don't Need No Education. We Don't Need No Thought Control.
Whoa.
I know, right? Like, what is that even about? I gotta listen to that one.
I'm curious, too. It sounds intense. And then there are episodes that are more like practical advice, like the truth about online reading, what you're getting wrong.
Oh, yeah, that one's good. She really does a great job of balancing the big, mind-blowing ideas with stuff that you can actually use in your everyday life.
And then she's got this whole cultural side, too, right? Like those episodes about Israeli food and stuff.
Yeah. Like, discover the stories behind shakshuka and Israeli cuisine. It's like she's inviting you into her world, her experiences, and then using that to talk about these bigger ideas.
That's like she's found this whole new way to blend the personal with the universal.
Exactly. And people are responding to it. She's got listeners in 82 countries and 32 U.S. states.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. And get this, her stories made it onto Google Discover in just 19 days.
Wow, that's pretty unheard of. That's awesome.
It is.
And it's probably because she's not afraid to trying new things. Like, did you know her podcast hosts are AI characters?
Wait, really?
Yeah, they're named Mark and Samantha.
That's so cool. It's like she's taking this whole AI thing and actually making it part of her creative process.
It's very meta, right?
Yeah, and it's a subtle way of reinforcing her message about being smart about technology.
Right. It's not just a theory for her. It's like she's living it out loud.
Exactly. Okay, I'm officially intrigued. I'm starting to see why Laya and her work are worth paying attention to. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of this Laya portal method. What makes it so different from other approaches to online reading and information evaluation?
That's a great question. It all
Well,
comes down to That's a great question. It all comes down to verification. Like, most reading strategies just focus on speed or understanding, but Lyon's method makes you slow down and actually investigate what you're reading.
I see. So it's about turning reading into research, almost.
Yeah, exactly. But then the question is, how do you do that with everything you see online? Like, I can't spend hours researching every meme or tweet, right?
That's what I was thinking. It doesn't seem very realistic.
Right. And that's where the whole portal idea comes in. Like, she doesn't say you have to use every step all the time. It's more like having these filters, these portals that you can use when you need to.
So it's about being more selective about what we let into our minds, especially when it comes to stuff that could influence our opinions or choices. Exactly. And that's why this is so important with all this AI stuff going around.
Right.
Because AI can make things that look and sound real even when they're totally fake. So you need a way to figure out what's legit.
So the Lion portal method is like a defense system against AI trickery.
That's a good way to put it. It's like a toolkit for the digital age, basically.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing the value here.
Yeah.
But this makes me wonder, who should be paying attention to Liet's work? We've talked about Hollywood and the music industry, but who else could benefit from this?
Well, anyone who goes online, right, which is pretty much everyone these days. But I think some groups could really use it.
Like who? Give me some examples.
Teachers, for sure. They're trying to teach kids how to be smart online, how to spot fake news, and Layet's method gives them a framework for that.
That's a great point, right?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just for kids either. We all need these skills.
Totally. And that's why I think supporting Layet's work is so important. She's giving all this stuff away for free, but she needs more than just casual readers to really make a difference.
Right, so what are you saying? Become a founding member, an annual subscriber. What does that kind of support actually do?
It's more than just money, though that's obviously important. It's about being part of something bigger, like a community that wants to make the internet a better place.
I see. So it's about putting your money where your mind is.
Exactly. And Liet's actually got some pretty cool perks for those members, too.
Like what? Give me the details.
So depending on what level you join at, you can get access to exclusive content, behind-the-scenes stuff, even feedback on your own projects, like if you're a writer or something.
Wow, that sounds pretty amazing. And it's not just about what you get, right? It's about the bigger impact, too.
Absolutely. The more people who support her, the more she can do. Like create new content, reach more people, really get the word out.
So it's like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Your individual contribution creates a wave.
Exactly. And even if you can't afford to become a member or whatever, Liet says just sharing her work is huge.
Like telling your friends, posting it online, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Exactly. Word of mouth is super powerful, especially online. So if you like what she's doing, spread the word.
Makes sense. So we've established that supporting Liet is a good thing. But let's get back to the Liet show itself. We were talking about how unique it is, how different from other podcasts and stuff. What makes it stand out, do you think?
I think it's her voice. It's so clear and engaging, and she's not afraid to be herself.
I agree. It feels very authentic, like she's just having a conversation with you.
Exactly. And she's not afraid to talk about anything. Like, seriously, her topics are all over the place.
I know, right? 1 minute it's shakshuka, the next it's AI ethics.
And somehow, she always manages to tie it all back to the human experience. It's like she's saying, look, we're all in this together. Let's figure this stuff out.
I love that. And then there's her whole style, too, right? Like the way she mixes personal stories with all this other stuff.
It's like she's saying, hey, this is what I've learned from my life, and maybe it can help you too.
It's very relatable. And the fact that she uses AI co-hosts for her podcast is just, like, next level.
I know, right? It's so meta.
It's like she's walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. It's a way of showing, not just telling, how AI is already changing everything.
Okay, I'm sold. This Liet show sounds like a must-listen. But let's dive a bit deeper into why people in Hollywood and the music industry specifically should be taking notes.
Oh, that's a good one. Think about it, right? Storytellers and producers are always looking for new ways to tell stories, new ways to reach people.
Right, they need to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And Liet's showing them how to do that, how to blend personal narrative with all this other stuff in a way that's fresh and exciting.
And for musicians, I think there's something really inspiring about her rawness, her willingness to experiment.
It's like she's created a new art form, a live performance of information, as she calls it. And in a world that's increasingly dominated by pre-recorded algorithmic content, that kind of rawness has a real power to it.
It's like she's challenging the status quo, the way we think about storytelling in the digital age.
Exactly. And that's why it's worth paying attention to her journey. It's not just about entertainment. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible and reimagining how we create and consume information.
Okay, I'm officially on board, but before we get too carried away, let's take a closer look at the Liat portal method itself and why it's causing such a stir. What makes it so different from other approaches to online reading and information evaluation?
Well, I think what sets it apart is its focus on verification. Most reading strategies are all about speed or comprehension, but Liat's method forces you to really slow down and investigate the information, like a detective.
Right, so it's not just about reading, it's about analyzing.
Exactly. And what's brilliant is that it's actually really simple and practical. You don't need any special tools or anything, just a willingness to actually think about what you're reading.
So it's about shifting from passive consumption to active engagement.
Yes. And Liat breaks it down into these really clear steps. Like the first thing is you got to check the source, right?
Right.
Is it from a big news site, an academic journal, or just some random blog?
That makes sense because not all sources are created equal.
Exactly. Then you got to look at the author. Who are they? What's their background? What's their agenda, maybe? Why are they writing this particular piece?
So it's like getting to know the person behind the words.
Right. And this is especially important now with AI because AI can make stuff that sounds like it was written by an expert, even when it's totally bogus.
Right. Like, how do we even know what's real anymore?
Exactly. So that's why the next step is so crucial, looking for evidence. Does what they're saying actually hold up? Do they have data, quotes, links to other stuff that backs it up?
So it's about being a critical thinker, not just taking everything at face value.
Exactly. And finally, Liat says, don't forget the big picture. How does this one piece of information fit into everything else that's being said about this topic? Are there other viewpoints we should be considering?
That's important, right? Like getting the full story, not just one side of it.
Exactly. And that's what makes this method so effective, especially against all the misinformation that's out there,
It's like a shield against AI propaganda.
That's one way to put it. Okay, I'm totally on board with this. But let's switch gears for a minute and talk about something else that I think is really cool about the Liat Show. Its appeal to people in Hollywood and the music industry. Why do they need to be paying attention to Liat?
That's a great question. Because on the surface, it might not seem like there's an obvious connection.
Right, but think about it, Liat is pioneering this whole new type of storytelling. She's blending personal stories, cultural stuff, deep thoughts, all into this super engaging package.
It's like she's creating a new genre, almost.
Exactly. And for people in Hollywood, screenwriters, directors, that's pure gold. She's showing them how to weave together all these different elements into a story that really grabs people.
And for musicians too, right? There's something about her rawness, her authenticity, that I think could be really inspiring.
Totally. It's like she's doing a live performance of information, as she calls it, which is so different from all the pre-recorded, polished stuff we're used to.
So it's not just about the content itself. It's about the energy, the spirit behind it.
Yes. It's about pushing boundaries, trying new things, not being afraid to experiment. And in creative fields like music and film, that's what keeps things fresh.
So basically, Liat's a role model for anyone who wants to shake things up and create something truly unique.
Exactly. She's leading the way, showing what's possible. Okay, so we've talked about why Liat's work is important, but what can we do as listeners to support her?
Right, like how can we help spread the word and make sure more people hear her message?
Honestly, the simplest thing is just to share her stuff. Tell your friends, post it online, whatever. Word of mouth is super powerful these days.
That's true. A personal recommendation goes a long way.
Exactly. And even just liking or commenting on her posts helps too. It shows her that people are listening, and it helps her content reach more people.
And of course, if you can, becoming a member or subscriber is a huge help too. It gives her the resources to keep doing what she's doing.
Exactly. But even if you can't do that, There are so many other ways to contribute. Just being part of the community, sharing her ideas, that's huge.
So it's a team effort, basically.
Exactly. The more people who get involved, the bigger the impact.
Okay, I'm ready to join the movement. So to wrap things up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this deep dive into the Lay It Show?
I want them to see that Liet's not just entertaining us, she's challenging us to think differently, to be more critical, to actually use our voices and make a difference in the world.
It's about empowering ourselves to shape the future, right?
Exactly. And I think that's something we can all get behind.
Absolutely. So go check out the Lay It Show, subscribe to our channels, and join the conversation. It's a journey worth taking.
It really is. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time. And until then, keep those minds open and curious.